I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, July the 17th, where we're just wondering if we have the sustainability to carry this wave of this good market that we surprisingly got last week, and hopefully we can hold it together a little bit. If we could just hold the levels that we obtained last week in feeder cattle and fats and on the board, that would be an awesome victory there, but it's unlikely, but we hope that that we can do part of it anyway. But going into these high volume Monday markets, your trend should be quite a bit higher, just because we saw a lot of movement in the market, a lot of gains, and there was some big sales, individual sales and lots that were sold on the video and in some of your special auctions that have kind of carried the market a little bit higher, and you hear some of these monster quotes coming out of some of these places, and it makes these cattle just on the market sound cheap. But you look at the board for last week, live cattle futures, the August contract ended the week at 117.80, which was up $3.03 for the week. Most all your attention and all your volumes in October now, which we will talk about from here forward, and it settled at 118.57, which is not a huge basis, and normally we get in here to the fall and early winter, we see more narrow bases, but that's a pretty narrow basis, a lot more narrow than what we've been carrying here for the last several months, but just about a buck, and it's a long ways till the end of October. But feeder cattle, August contract ended at 154.27, up $9.25, and just very impressive feeder cattle. You just wish that there was a little more tied to the feeder cattle. If we'd have seen a $9 gain on the live cattle futures, that would have really meant something, but they can pretty much play around with that feeder cattle market, and as long as it gets close there towards the end, it's not a big deal. But your grain futures were very, very volatile, just huge swings one way or the other. You know, your beans were down 46.5 cents there on the new crop on Thursday, and that's just really tough on your farmers. All their contracts trying to forward their sales on their grain are tied to the board there, and when it just jacks around that wide, there was 30-cent swing on your close between corn's high and low for last week, and that's just the difference in being able to make it and the difference in going broke, and you hate to see that. And we're totally in a weather market right now, and it is dry, and in the western corn belt and the extreme heat that's been seen over the last week or two, this kind of took its toll on your crops there. But then for your markets to just plunge there mid to late week on just some stories of some cooler temperatures coming along, that doesn't really make sense. But you've got a weather market that's playing around with the grains, and people that are driving that don't really know what they're talking about, or what the weather is, or its effects on the crop. But you look at the fat cattle trade for last week, through Thursday, 94,500 head in the 5-area feeding region, which is very impressive in a dog day summer post-holiday week right there. Probably with a few cleanup deals on Friday, we'll push it over 100,000, which is the first time we've done that in over a month. But your live sales are going to average close to 119.50, which will be a full $2 higher. And the dress sales come in with a weighted average more impressive, really, because they averaged over 190 at 190.08. We had some 190 sales the previous week, but didn't average near that. But your weighted average there is going to be a full $2 higher there too. But slaughter was very impressive last week, 637,000, not comparable to the holiday week before that, but compared to the same week a year ago, it was 39,000 more cattle being slaughtered, which is always a positive. Your box beef cutout is the one thing that we saw in beef and cattle that did not carry on, and they just continue to be sharply lower, near 20%. Over $40 loss on your choice cutouts in the last month, and that is horrible. You know, we've got to feel it for the packers there, because they're still kind of in the black the way they are, but they're just reeling, trying to keep up with the values on their box beef cutouts, and choice is now under 210 with Friday's close there, and that's just a long ways. It was up over 250 here just the other day, and it's hard to keep up with, but it could spur some of these retailers to put out some specials here late in the summer, which is what we need. People to sop that meat up, and exports have been pretty good, and actually beef demand as a whole has stayed really good, and we need that to keep going if we're going to keep the markets anywhere where they've been. But you look at your feeder cattle, real-time index based on 800-pound steer ended the week at 149.53. That's a pretty good price there, and you look, if you compare that to the Friday before the holiday, which all through the holiday we just really didn't know what was going on. There wasn't enough of anything to establish the market, but that's a $4 gain what the RTI was leading into the holiday week. Now, I don't know that your feeder cattle are really trending that much higher, because the markets were starting to kind of wane off there at the end of that week, that pre-holiday week. So I don't know if you could call it a full $4 higher. Really, if you look on your cash trade and your sale barns, your market on your feeder cattle really look kind of unevenly steady to firm. But like I said earlier, I think these Monday markets will show quite a bit of gain in sales, like Oklahoma City and Joplin, which should carry on through the week unless we run into some big down markets in the board, or where they start selling fats a lot cheaper. But you look at an individual quote late in the week on Friday at 1:15 in the afternoon out of Bloomington, Wisconsin, which is a really good sale. Don't let that Wisconsin fool you. Actually due to host the World Champion Livestock Auctioneer contest next year, but they actually had 2 loads of 845-pound steers there, bring 158. That's pretty impressive. That's your feeder flash for Monday.